Picture your retirement, the last day of work. You hand in the badge, someone brings a cake, and then you stop. Decades of your life, paid for, with nothing you're required to do. It feels like the natural finish line of a human life, the reward at the end. But here's the strange part. That finish line is an invention. It has a birthday. And retirement, the whole idea that old age is a phase you get to rest through, is younger than the light bulb. So what did people do before it existed? What happened to you when you got old, for the 99% of human history before someone invented the weekend at the end of your life? By the end of this video, you'll know where old age used to lead, and you'll see that for almost all of human history, your retirement plan wasn't a fund, it was a face. Start with the blunt answer. For most of human history, you didn't retire. You worked until your body stopped letting you. There was no age where the world said, "You've done enough." A farmer farmed, a blacksmith hammered. When your hands got slower, you did the lighter jobs, mending, minding children, watching the pot. You contributed until the day you couldn't, and old age wasn't a number on a calendar, it was a condition. You were old when you could no longer pull your weight. And here's a myth we should kill right now. It changes the whole story. You've heard that people back then died at 40, so old age barely existed. That's a statistical illusion. Life expectancy was low mostly because so many babies died young, and all those tiny numbers drag the average down. If you actually survived childhood, reaching 60, 70, even 80 was completely normal. Ancient Rome had senators in their 70s. Villages had grandparents. So old people existed, plenty of them. The question was never whether you'd get old. It was, who feeds you when you can't feed yourself? And notice the word we use for the answer. Retire comes from the French, retirer, to draw back, to withdraw. When it entered English in the 1500s, it was a military word. An army retired. It retreated from the field. The idea of withdrawing from your work didn't even exist yet. That meaning only shows up around the 1660s. For most of the language's life, to retire meant to pull back from a battle, not from a job. So there was no finish line. You worked till you dropped. But nobody survives entirely alone. When your body finally failed, something had to catch you. And for thousands of years, that something wasn't a bank or a government. It was sitting at your dinner table. Your children. Your children were the pension. This is the oldest retirement plan on Earth, and billions of people still live by it today. You raise kids. You pour your whole life into them. And the unspoken contract is that when you're old, they carry you. A roof, a bowl of food, a place by the fire. It's why for most of history, having many children wasn't sentiment. It was survival math. More children meant more hands to work the farm now, and more people to catch you later. A big family was your 401k. Every child was a deposit. And this ran deeper than habit. Whole moral systems were built to enforce it. Honor thy father and mother isn't just about being polite. It's a social security system written into scripture, in a world with no other safety net. In Rome, the father held legal power over the household for life. In much of Asia, the duty of children to care for aging parents was the bedrock of the entire culture. The pension wasn't a policy, it was a commandment. But look at what that plan actually depended on. It needed your children to survive. It needed them to stay nearby, and it needed them to be willing. The whole system rested on memory and loyalty, on people who knew your face and felt they owed you. So here's the terrifying question that haunted old age for thousands of years. What happened to you if you had no one? No children, or children who died young, or children who moved away, or simply turned their backs. For those people, there was one place left, and it was the thing everyone spent their whole lives praying to avoid. The poorhouse, also called the almshouse, or the workhouse. And it was exactly as bleak as it sounds. It was where society put the people no family would catch, the disabled, the orphaned, the mad, and the old. These places were designed to be miserable, on purpose. The thinking was that if the poorhouse were even slightly comfortable, people might choose it, so it had to be a punishment. Cramped rooms, thin, awful food, mandatory labor, even for the elderly. One 19th century American poorhouse was described with residents milling about like forgotten animals, and rats running between the beds. To be sent there wasn't just poverty, it was shame. It was proof that no one in the world had claimed you. And here's the detail that tells you everything. Over the course of the 1800s, historians tracked who was actually living in these places, and the population quietly changed. The children found homes, The sick moved to hospitals, but the old people stayed. By the end of the century, in county after county, the poorhouse had slowly, accidentally, turned into something we didn't have a name for yet: an old age home. It was the first institution in the Western world that existed mostly to hold the elderly. Think about what that means. Before retirement, growing old with no family didn't lead to a beach. It led to a locked ward you were ashamed to be seen in. So those were your only two roads: your children or the poorhouse, love or shame. And for thousands of years, nobody imagined a third option, until one of the most ruthless politicians in history built one. Not out of kindness, out of fear. Germany, 1889. Now, one ancient exception. Rome paid pensions, but only to soldiers. Serve 20 years in the legions and the state owed you a lump sum, around 12,000 sesterces, roughly 12 years of a soldier's pay. Augustus even built a treasury just to fund it. But notice, that was a reward for loyalty, for men with swords who could overthrow you. It was never a plan for growing old. It was a bribe to keep the army happy. The first time a government promised to catch ordinary old people came from Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor. And his motive was cold. Germany's workers were turning to socialism, and Bismarck wanted to cut the ground out from under it. So on the 24th of May, 1889, Germany passed the world's first national old age insurance. Workers, employers, and the state each paid in, and at 70, you'd get a pension. Now, you've probably heard the cynical version, that Bismarck set the age at 70 because almost no one lived that long, so he'd never have to pay. It's a great story. It's also, at best, misleading. Remember Act 1. Life expectancy at birth was dragged down by infant deaths. A German who reached adulthood could very reasonably reach 70, and Bismarck himself was 74 when he passed the law. The age was later lowered to 65 in 1916, 18 years after Bismarck was already dead. He didn't pick 65. He never planned for it to fail. The "designed so nobody would collect" line is a myth that's more fun than it is true. What Bismarck really did was more radical than a stingy budget. He invented a new definition of old. Old was no longer when your body gave out. Old became a number. Cross the line, and society owed you rest, whether you could still work or not. That idea crossed the ocean, and in 1935, America built its own version: Social Security, with the finish line drawn at 65. Not because of Bismarck. The planners chose it because the math was sustainable. But the concept was his. And that's the invention. Not a fund, not a beach. A number that redefined a stage of human life. So look at the whole road. You worked till you dropped. Your children caught you. If they couldn't, the poorhouse did. And then, 140 years ago, an institution stepped in and offered to catch you instead. And we called it progress. And it was. But look at what it quietly replaced. For all of human history, your retirement plan had a face. It had a name. It was a person who owed you, and knew it. We swapped that for a number and a check from a stranger, and mostly, we were relieved to. The safety net used to be the people who loved you. Now it's an institution that's never met you. We didn't just invent retirement, we outsourced our parents. So here's the one to sit with. For all of history, your kids were your retirement plan. Should they still be? Or do we owe our parents an old age we've now handed to the state? Be honest. Let me know in the comments below. And to see what happens when people get all the money at once, with no plan for it at all. That's why lottery winners go broke. Click to watch this video right here.